Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mac Conwell II. I am the startup Mac. I am live today with my co-host.
Hey everyone, it's Kate Alegado.
Hi, Kate. And so today, continuing on our vlog series about just advice for startups. Today, we're going to talk about investors. This is a question I get a lot. A lot of people come to me and ask me for advice on investors and raising money. And what I'm really want to talk about today is why a lot of entrepreneurs, early stage startup entrepreneurs who think they need to raise money or think they're ready to raise money really aren't. You're not quite there yet, and reasons behind that.
So what's your experience, Mac?
My experience, my experience has been, and I've gone through this myself when I was an early stage entrepreneur. A lot of early stage startup entrepreneurs don't know what they don't know. That's one of the biggest issues you have. And what I mean by that is you don't really know how to navigate the space, or you're not really sure how funding works or how you meet investors. And so when we first started out, we spent the year building a really cool product, but nobody was using it, and we didn't realize there was more to running a startup or building a website than just building it. The whole field of dreams thing, build it and they will come, doesn't really work. So what we thought at the time was, hey, why don't now that we starting to learn a little bit about the space, there are these great people called investors. Let's find them, have them give us money, and then we'll use their money to do marketing on our great product, and boom, everything's going to work. And that's not really how it works. that's not how this. That's not how the ecosystem or how the community really works. An investor isn't necessarily going to give you money so that you can go market and try stuff out. Um, Typically, when you're talking about investors, even angel investors who, they really invest in the people more so than the product, but their primary objective beyond just seeing you grow as an entrepreneur and see your company grow is to make money. And so when you think about an investor, when their prime objective is to make money, they want you to come to them with a black box that they can somewhat kind of understand. That where if they put more money in, more money is going to come out the other end. So if I put in $1, $5 is going to come out. I don't need to know exactly how you increase the money. I just need to have some kind of concept of how this can work and how this can grow over time. And that's really what investors want to see. A really cool black box that they can take to the next level. And the trap that a lot of entrepreneurs run into is they think that because they have a great idea, because they have a cool product, that they should just raise money from investors, and that'll solve some of their problems. And really, that's just a cop out. That's the default way for entrepreneurs to try to cover up the things they don't know or the things they don't have experience with. And so they just want to throw money at the things that they're unable to do. So like if you're an early stage startup and you got a cool product but you don't have a whole lot of users or much traction at all, you might have the tendency to say, hey, I want to go raise money so I can put that money into marketing. Well, no, you just don't know how to market your product yet or where it fits in the market. And so you want to use somebody else's money to try and figure that out. That's not really going to go that well for you. That's not really what investors are there to invest in. That's not what they're looking for.
So you said that earlier with your a startup. I'm not sure which one this was because you didn't address it. But
No Bad Gift, my very first startup, nobadgift.com.
so for that one, did you get any investments in it?
We didn't get any investments. We got a small investment from our first accelerator we went to in 25K, 25,000. That was just part of being in the accelerator program. We had at some point gotten offered some money from a friend or family member, but we turned that down. Here's another thing about investments. Not all money or investments are good money or what some people call smart money. So be careful who you raise money from. So especially when you're doing like a friends and family round, understand that some of the people you may be raising money from aren't necessarily sophisticated investors. And what I mean by a sophisticated investor, that means somebody who's invested their money before, who's been burned, who's lost money, who's won money, and who understands the investment, how investments work. You don't want to raise money from somebody who doesn't really understand these things.
Mm-hmm.
And then next thing you know, you have somebody who gave you, 200,000 of their hard-earned money, who's now micromanaging your company, who wants to be really involved, or who's always asking you, hey, when am I going to get paid? When are we going to make this money? When in actuality, there's a good chance that nothing's ever going to come, that you raise this money and you might not turn over a profit, or it's going to be 4 or 5 or 6 years down the road before you even return them any kind of profit for their investment. And so you want people who understand that going in. And you also want people who can help grow your company. So sometimes it's not just about the money. A lot of times when you raise money from investors, their money shouldn't be the only reason you're raising money from that particular individual or institution. It should also be for the connections and the help and other things they have to offer you along the way, which can be sometimes far more important than the money itself.
So I'm just gonna kind of do a connection with what you're saying and to your personal experience. So through your personal experience, you were able to raise one round, and that was through an accelerator. After that, you had tried to attempt to get more investments, right?
We hadn't attempted to get more investments. We developed a network of investors and people who really cared about our product and what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing was, like I said, a lot of entrepreneurs think they're ready to raise money or think they should be raising money, and they shouldn't, or they're not ready. And we understood that. And so one of the big indicators for you when you want to go to raise money is traction.
Mm-hmm.
We established that we had a great team and we had a good product that was a well-built product. Good is relative, but we had a well-built product. But what we didn't have was traction. We didn't have a lot of people using it. And so raising money without traction, one, is extremely difficult because most sophisticated investors aren't going to take that kind of a risk. Like, most investors aren't going to give you money for an idea. This just off the bat. They're not going to give you money so you can build the product, so you can hire a developer to build your product. That doesn't work. It's too easy and to find some. It's too easy to go out there and build a product.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you have a great idea, but you don't know how to find the technical talent to build it, I'm not going to give you money so you can figure that out and pay somebody. Because even if you're the right person for this job, I'm pretty sure there's 20 or 30 other people doing something similar, and they can
Mm-hmm.
figure out how to get it built. So that means you should be able to figure out how to get it built. You should figure out how to put a team together. You shouldn't need to come to me and get my money to figure that stuff out. That's the first step. The second thing is, if once you have the product built, but you haven't quite found that product market fit, I'm probably not going to give you my money yet either, because yes, you have a product, but we still don't know if people want it.
Yeah.
It might be a well-built product. It might have all the bells and whistles and look great and all the features, but if nobody's using it, I'm not going to give you money to experiment with marketing tries and pay somebody a whole bunch of money for something that we still don't know people want. So that's a huge risk there, and that's pretty much where we were at. We had a well-built product, but we didn't have a lot of users to justify going out to raising money. Now, I will
But
say, go ahead.
but is that always the case for investors that they want to see traction before they actually invest in you or in your product?
Not always. So you will find. So here's one thing I've learned also. If you pitch your idea to enough investors, and this is when you have a product and maybe have a little something happening. If you pitch to enough people, you will eventually find somebody who believes in your product enough to give you some amount of money. Now, so not every investor is going to be looking for traction, but that's become kind of the key thing. That's what's that's what's happening now
Mm-hmm.
is more traction based, and plus putting money into a company that doesn't have traction yet, it's just really, really, really risky because
Mm-hmm.
nobody knows, nobody has even any kind of idea that something's working.
Yeah.
So typically, when you're thinking about raising money, you think about raising rounds. You typically think about like a C round, then an A round, B round, so forth and so forth. So typically, your seed round is you build something and something's happening. You're not sure if the traction you're getting is fool's gold or if it's real, because you might just have some initial significant traction day one because of your friends and the community of people that you know. And
Hmm.
so, in the first, month of you being up, you got 1,000 downloads, or you've gotten 1,000 users, and that may look like traction, but nobody's really sure yet. But it looks like something could be there. Well, then you might raise the seed round. It's like, hey, I built something and we see something happening. We're not 100% sure what it is, but this is what we think it is. We think it's moving in this direction because of these reasons. And so we want to raise some money to show in the next 6 months to a year that we can prove that it's moving this way for this reason. And these are the key metrics we're going to hit.
Okay, so I guess if I'm seeking out investors, how and where do I go?
If you're seeking out investors, you go, there's a couple things you could do. Angels List works. Having your product up on Angels List and reaching out to investors, that does work. But really what you want to do is you need to network. You need to get those warm intros. You need to get people in your network, people you know, to connect with and connect you to investors. Whether that be, going to a lot of events, going to a lot of conferences, and just, or, finding out who are the investors in your local community and just reaching out to them and asking them if they could, meet you for coffee. Um, Here in Baltimore, great examples, we have an angel group called the Baltimore Angels. It's a group of high net worth individuals who invest in startups. And what I did in my early days was I reached out to a few of them on LinkedIn and just said, hey, I'm a young entrepreneur in the area. Would love to meet with you just to get some advice. Not to talk to them about raising money or that I want in investments, but just to say, hey, I'm in the community, I'm working on a project, I would love to get some advice. And you'd be surprised to see how many investors would just meet with you for coffee and want to just share advice and words of wisdom with you. And that starts a relationship where now you can start a line of communication where every couple weeks or every few months you can reach out to them, give them updates, let them know how you're doing, and they'll give you advice. And it kind of starts off like this courting period where now they get to see, how you work as an entrepreneur, how hard you hustle, how well you take advice, and a
Hmm.
lot of things like that.
So two things that people should do is to put their startup or company on AngelList. Is that what you said?
AngelList is a great resource. It's a great place to put your company and try to
So it's the
define.
first thing?
No, the first thing you need to do is start networking. Start
Okay.
going to events, start to meet people, start to figure out, who in your local community are, the top investors, and just start meeting with them. And don't have the conversation about money. So there's a great saying out there: if you want my advice, ask me for money. If you want my money, ask me for advice. And my experiences have been very true. Uh, any investor I've ever met, I've always asked them for their advice, and the conversations about money have always come up later, and it's usually been on their end. Well, they're asking, say, hey, so do you feel like you're ready to, maybe raise some money? You feel like it's something you're thinking about? And that becomes a much easier conversation than you going to somebody like, hey, I really want to raise some money. This is why. It just works out better.
So after building the relationships that I mean, primarily getting an investment is just through relationships, you would say.
Yeah, a lot of
There's
it's
no
through.
other there's no other like tips or tricks or anything.
Um, Not really. I mean, that's really how a lot of investors get their deal flow. I mean, you can go on GUST, and find different angel groups and investment groups, and they have applications where you can apply to pitch to them. And while those do work, and you can get in front of groups and you can pitch to them, it's always to have somebody in the room who already knows you, somebody who's kind of walked you through the process and gotten you ready, somebody who's already in the room who advocates for you, especially in the angel group. like a group of angels. But even in the VC realm, you're going to do several pitches, and so there are going to be certain people who you're going to build relationships with before you get to your final pitch, where you actually pitch to the decision makers.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's really about the relationships. It's really a lot about the relationships. Ways that there are competitions you can apply for. There are angel investment groups you can just write applications to. But really, if you're serious about this, you've been in the community, you've met enough people, you've networked enough, you'll know somebody or meet somebody who can get you in touch with somebody who can get you in touch with an investor. Like, it's not as hard as it sounds. It sounds hard and daunting at first, especially when you don't have any else connections. But once you start to build that, it's not as hard as it sounds.
Well, I guess I'll go out and start meeting up with investors then.
This is all about networking. Start, going to local events, going to panel discussions, seeing who's who, and start reaching out to people, grabbing cups of coffee, and paying for lots of cups of coffee, or breakfast, or beers, or dinner, whatever works best for you. And so, yeah. But just to kind of recap, a lot of entrepreneurs need to realize that while raising money can be crucial to you, to the growth of your company and acceleration of your company, to understand what you're raising money for and when you're ready to raise money. So you're typically not ready to raise money until you have something built and you have some traction or some metrics to indicate that people are actually interested in what you're building. And once you're there, then you're going to raise money. And what you're raising money for, primarily, some of it may be for marketing, but a lot of it's going to be to accelerate the growth of your product. So that's probably going to be in the team. So when you raise your funding, that's going to be some for marketing and some going to be for some team members, because now you put a makeshift team or a team of great people together to get started, but now you need some additional development help. You might want to hire 1 or 2 salespeople. You might want to hire some high-level executives to the team. And that's what your money is going to go towards. You shouldn't be raising money because you don't have a tech team and you want to build it. Well, that's fool's gold. Well, that you can find ways to get that done. You shouldn't be raising money because you have a cool product but nobody's using it, so you want to throw a whole bunch of money at marketing. Again, that's fool's gold. If nobody wants your product, it doesn't matter how much money you throw in marketing. It's not going to go anywhere. And understand that there are other lessons to be learned before you raise money. Because here's the thing. When you raise money and you don't know exactly what you're going to do with the money, or you're not sure where the money's going to go, or you think you're going to put all that money towards marketing, what happens is you get this money and you end up wasting it because you're not even sure how you're supposed to use it yet. That's exactly what we did. We raised that $25K and we wasted about 10,000 of it. And this is just on a small scale. Imagine if we had raised 500K. If we had raised 500,000, how much money we would have wasted because we didn't know what we should have really been focusing that money on. Just throwing the money at problems that we felt we couldn't solve on our own, and so the money's going to be the great equalizer to solve all these problems. That's not how it works. Just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you're going to solve the problems you have. You need to figure out solutions to those problems beforehand, and then you can really use that money effectively.
Yeah, that's like that can be implemented in real life.
It's true. That can be implemented in real life.
Other than this business life that we're talking about.
So, yeah, I think that's my key thing on investments, especially for early stage entrepreneurs. You might think you're ready for investments, but there's a good chance you're not. If you have a good product built, if you have a decent team around you, and you have some traction that shows that something's kind of working, then yes, all day long, if you're ready for it, if that's what you want, start putting it out there that you're thinking about raising some money, raising around. But
here's a practical exercise. Go network, meet with 5 investors, and come back to me and Mac and tell me how your experience was.
I like that. If you can meet with 5 investors just to ask them for some advice, ask them for their time, and sometimes it's difficult to get in touch with some of the people you want to, but if you hustle enough and you keep talking to people, you'll meet 5, and let's know how that went, how the conversations. and how you felt about them. Because they'll be, and some of the advice investors will give you will be some really hardcore, blunt, and honest truth about what you're doing, your company, the numbers, the way it grows, and you'll learn really quickly how investors think and how investors think about startups. And it'll make you start to think differently about how you even look at your own company.
I like that.
So I think that's it for today, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the vlog. Send us emails and tweets and let us know what you thought about it. If you have questions, any topics you want us to touch on, please send to me and Kate. Information will be in the description below. And have a good one, everybody.
Have a good one. Tell us your stories. I'm being serious.
Bye, everybody.